Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Happy Inauguration Day. Putin's fifth term in office starts amid war, censorship, repression, and media control. The 71-year-old Russian leader, who's been in power since May of 2000, was re-elected for another 6-year term in March, in elections where he faced no real opposition. There were 3 other names on the presidential ballot. I didn't even learn their names. They weren't campaigning, and they all had endorsed Putin for president. Here's the photograph of Putin being sworn in for the first time 24 years ago, and this is what he looked like this morning. This honestly doesn't even look like the same guy. He's had so much work done to his face. At the bare minimum, he gets regular Botox injections to look more puffy. But look at his eyebrows from his inauguration this morning. They've clearly been shaped and dyed for the public. I mean, is this promoting LGBT propaganda when the president of a country shapes and colors his eyebrows to look stronger? And I want to share this clip from when Putin left office in 2008. The Russian Constitution originally had term limits for presidents to prevent Putin from becoming a dictator. And this is what he had the audacity to say in 2008. Different people are likely to fall for different things. Someone becomes dependent on tobacco, someone, God forbid, on drugs. But they say the biggest addiction is to power. I didn't have the temptation to stay for the 3rd term. Never. He was term limited. Eventually, Russia's constitution was changed. He was allowed to come back. He basically just swapped with Dmitry Medvedev, but retained all the power for himself. And this is what the children of Russia looked like, being forced to watch Putin's re-inauguration on television. I'm sure all state workers as well had to stop their work to turn on a television and make sure they watch the dear leader's speech. But this is all these Russian children have known for 24 years. Putin has been in control of their country, and in control of them their entire lives. Russian media is reporting that all mobile and internet networks were basically jammed for the entirety of Putin's speech on the steps of the Kremlin. Putin's pretty paranoid about being assassinated, and this would have been a golden opportunity for a drone to get in there somehow, but no, Russia took the steps to make sure that nothing electronic functioned within a kilometer of the Kremlin. And I'm not familiar with Russia's inauguration process, but here in the United States, this is usually like a big party, a big celebration. Traditionally, American presidents have a lot of inauguration balls. Members of the party, people from across the country, donors, celebrities, they're all invited to these inauguration balls. In 1997, the number of inauguration balls peaked at 14 for Bill Clinton's re-election. Barack Obama in 2009 had 10 official and 121 unofficial inauguration balls. How this works with American presidents is they have to zip around town to pop in and make an appearance for like 15 or 20 minutes at each one of these balls. It's a little silly, but it's all in good fun. But I don't think Russia does this. I don't think there's going to be 10 inauguration balls around Moscow that Putin's going to show up at all of them. US and most EU nations abstained from attending Putin's inauguration. Other world leaders, for some reason, don't want to go to Moscow. So who did show up? And the leaders of Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Cuba, Laos, and Guinea. Those were the only world leaders willing to attend Putin's re-inauguration. But they got Steven Seagal, Hollywood A-list celebrity right here. And Steven Seagal looks like he's on drugs. He's looking very unhealthy, but he was asked what he thought of Putin's re-inauguration.
I just said he's the greatest world leader. He's the greatest.
What do you think the future will be like?
With President Putin, it will be the best.
What would you tell Americans about Putin right now and his fifth term?
I'm very looking forward to it.
Putin is the greatest world leader ever? What the heck is on his head? Ukraine won't recognize Putin as legitimate and calls for international non-recognition. This is a tough position because monarchies and dictatorships are legitimate forms of government. Russia is not a democracy. Nobody should be saying Russia is a democracy. But obviously, President Xi is the leader of China. MBS is the leader of Saudi Arabia. But they're not democracies. So Putin is the leader, the legitimate leader of Russia, because he doesn't allow for any opposition. So how do the Russians celebrate Putin's re-inauguration? Medvedev threatens nuclear strike on European capitals if they send troops to Ukraine. Former Russian President Medvedev warns that if the West sends troops to Ukraine, that would signal the country's direct entry into the war, to which Russia would have to respond. This is what the Russians have been doing for 16 years. This article from The Telegraph: Russia threatens nuclear attack on Poland over US missile shield. This article is from 2008. 16 years ago. This is what the Russians have been doing. So it continues. Russia says they're preparing a non-strategic nuclear strike drill. Russia's MOD Monday said that forces were preparing to conduct tactical nuclear weapon exercises in response to Western threats and provocations. So strategic nukes is what the other great powers have, ICBMs or cruise missiles going a long range. Tactical nuclear weapons are smaller and intended to be used on the battlefield. This is insane and stupid, and you probably can figure out why. But the United States did experiment with tactical nuclear weapons. The most famous example was the Davy Crockett, and this was basically a nuclear weapon on an RPG with 20 tons of TNT power equivalent. So just think about it. You're an American soldier holding an RPG, firing off a nuke. This project was obviously abandoned in the 1950s because nuclear radiation goes everywhere, and if you're trying to use tactical nukes on the battlefield, it will just blow onto your own forces and make your own soldiers sick. But the Russians obviously think this is a brilliant idea. This is a Russian general, General Gruyilov. He appears on Kremlin State TV often, but this is what he has to say. Today is such a day when the soul rejoices. The morning started with drills in the Southern Military District on the use of tactical nuclear weapons. Spectacular news. It's long overdue. Further news is even more joyful. We joyfully and candidly informed the Ambassador of Great Britain that we have the right to destroy any British sites in any part of the world if Cameron doesn't take back his words. It's overall excellent. Third news. Any F-16 plane in Ukraine will be viewed as a carrier of nuclear weapons. Nuclear strike on a nuclear weapon carrier, it has to be done. Then all the hotheads will disappear in a moment. Everyone would cool off right away. In a moment, Russia is still capable of striking any enemy anywhere in the world. Everyone needs to understand this. The determination to carry out these attacks is 100% super serious this time. Well, something like this, today is a good day. It's been over 2 years and Russia's getting their asses kicked. They're not going to use nuclear weapons. That would be the death of Putin. The West wouldn't allow him to live if he used nuclear weapons. And the other major nuclear powers like China and India could start participating in sanctions in response to Russia using nuclear weapons. They've been warned. US denounces Russia's irresponsible rhetoric over nuclear drills. Honestly, the more Russia talks about their nuclear weapons, the more desperate and pathetic they sound. Russia is showing weakness by continuously threatening the West with nuclear strikes. So here's the crazy news. US soldier travels to Russia and is arrested on suspicion of theft. Maybe he did steal something, but I guarantee as soon as he swiped his passport at customs, he was arrested. And the US Army has confirmed this is all true. Here's the basic details. Staff Sergeant Gordon Black, 34 years old, was stationed in South Korea and was in the process of returning home to Texas. But instead of going directly home, he tried to see a longtime girlfriend in Vladivostok. And Staff Sergeant Black is married. Let's get some basic details. This guy was a staff sergeant in the Army. That's an E6. Based on his age, I'm going to assume he has about 15 years active duty experience in the United States Army. I don't think he had any specific knowledge or skills that the Russians wanted. I don't think he was even lured to Russia. I think he voluntarily went. So he was stationed in South Korea, and this looks like a quick and easy trip to Vladivostok to visit his Russian girlfriend. And this Russian woman has a social media account. They've been posting pictures and videos together. As internet sleuths are investigating, this looks really bad for this married staff sergeant in the Army. But this Russian woman was studying at a university in South Korea. I lived in South Korea for 6 years. I met lots of Russians. It's incredibly normal to interact or meet Russians in South Korea. It's not normal to start hooking up with them and not tell the security manager of your unit. But let me play for you this small clip of Staff Sergeant Black and his Russian girlfriend.
Вот еще одно поздравление от US.
Rashi Sidneom Opedi.
Okay, you can say again.
Rashi Rafa.
Да, блядь, быстрее.
Russia Sidneom Podedi.
Finally. Прям ура.
Russian victory.
Russian victory day. Yeah, right. Всех с Днем Победы.
I can tell from this clip, just looking at the backgrounds, you can see that red neon cross, and you can see delivery scooter guys. This is on the streets of Seoul. And more clips are coming out. I'll link this one down below. But this is a 2-minute clip in which this Army sergeant is repeating Kremlin propaganda. He probably got it from people like Tucker Carlson or Elon Musk. But in this clip, he's saying, NATO is the aggressor. NATO's at fault for this war in Ukraine. Russia is the good guys, and they're just trying to defend themselves. Is he saying this just to impress his Russian girlfriend, or does he actually believe it? And I think he actually believes it, because he was dumb enough to go to Vladivostok, thinking he was safe, thinking the Russians are the good guys. They'll treat me well. This man's life is ruined. 15, 16 years, time in service. He's going to face UCMJ charges once the State Department can get him back. If the Russians are ever willing to release him, he's now a political prisoner. His marriage is ruined, his career is ruined. He's going to serve time in jail. All around, it's a sad situation, but these are the consequences for people like Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson pushing Russian propaganda to the general American audience. There are people dumb enough, even in the United States military, to fall for this. When we check in with the military map, the Russians haven't made progress in the last couple days. This salient trying to reach this road, Ukraine has stopped the bleeding, but the front lines are going to even out. According to the Institute for the Study of War, waiting for U.S. aid, Ukraine has to retreat from certain villages near Avdiivka to avoid being outflanked by the Russians. You can see it at several points in the map. For example, right here, these defenders should get out of here, fall back to maybe this point of contact, and let the Russians fill in these tree lines. It's better to save the lives of these defenders while waiting for additional artillery and weapons. Lots of bad news for Russia in the last couple days. According to Russian sources, a Russian Su-34 aircraft crashed. It wasn't shot down. This might have been piloting error or a mechanical malfunction, but the Russians are saying the crew was lost. Ukrainian drones targeted Russian railway infrastructure in Kursk and the Oryol regions. This was done last night. This was a coordinated drone strike on Russian logistics. They hit 4 points of this rail line all at the same time. This might take this rail line off for a couple days, but eventually Russia will repair it. But days matter greatly at this point in the war, as far as getting supplies to the front lines. According to Reuters, half of North Korean missiles fired by Russia blow up midair. I don't find this news shocking at all, given the safety standards and production quality of a North Korean factory. Yeah, failure rate of 50%. I think the Russians have just accepted this is okay, as long as North Korea keeps sending them weapons. This was a minor victory, but Ukraine was able to sneak a drone boat into the port city of Sevastopol. They were looking for a beefier target, but the drone was taking fire, and it had to settle on blowing up a small speedboat. Every little bit matters, but the fact they were able to sneak in, that's a huge achievement. Rheinmetall says they're sending prototypes of 100-kilometer range shells to Ukraine. I didn't know artillery shells from the ground could be launched 100 kilometers. I imagine they're still accurate. The Excalibur rounds, I think, can go like 40 or 60 kilometers. So if you've got ideas, if you've got prototypes and you want to test them with non-cooperative subjects like the Russians, send them to Ukraine. This is a brilliant idea. Russia's Tuapse oil refinery restarts after Ukraine's January attack. Ukraine struck this oil refinery on January 25th. The Russians are now saying it's operational again, which means Ukraine gets to strike it again. Good news for Ukraine, US to provide anti-GPS jammer sensors for Ukraine's precision-guided bombs. This is what caused GLSDB to fail. The electronic warfare environment in Ukraine is just too dense for anything GPS-guided to accurately hit their targets. So I was wondering how the heck JDAMs still managed to work, but some component needs to be added to the planes or the missiles in order to accurately hit their targets. The United States is trying to work on a solution. I didn't expect to be sharing a clip from the Netflix roast of Tom Brady, but I have a clip for you guys. And if you don't know who Tom Brady is, he's won 7 NFL Super Bowls. He's like the greatest quarterback who ever lived. And the owner of the team he played for, the New England Patriots, the owner's name is Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft was at the roast, and he wanted to send this message to Vladimir Putin.
And one more thing. In case, Vladimir Putin, you're watching, Give me my fucking ring back, will you?
This is a real story. Back in 2005, Robert Kraft was invited to the Kremlin, and he was able to meet Vladimir Putin. The New England Patriots had just won another Super Bowl. Robert Kraft was wearing his ring, and somebody recommended to Robert to show his ring to Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin liked the ring so much, he put it on his finger and just walked away, and kept the ring. And this is on camera. There are pictures and videos of this incident. It really happened. Putin stole Robert Kraft's third Super Bowl ring. You can't make this stuff up. Ukraine soldiers mark Easter on the front line. Easter was on Sunday. Lots of heartwarming clips of Ukrainian soldiers sharing meals together and remembering the holiday. But here's a clip I want to share with you guys of defenders enjoying their Easter meal.
Отбей нормально. Христос воскрес!
Христос воскрес! Христос воскрес!
Brothers for life. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.